So if anybody wants to watch this later, they can. All right, let me minimize this. And I want to welcome you to my special review for Excel. This is going to be targeted toward people who maybe haven't had math in a while and are feeling a little nervous about taking either Math 143 or Math 152. These are both math classes where you're going to have a ton of Excel work, and it's better to be familiar with it as possible before you go in there. So I'm going to give a 45-minute demonstration about things you can do with Excel, with math, and how to make your life a little bit easier when you're doing it, okay? My name's Phil. I'll be your instructor. I'm going to be assisted by my colleague, Brandon Fecht. And let's start from the very bottom, 2 plus 2. So when you want to do math in Excel, we got to tell Excel we're starting off with math. And we always begin by writing an equal sign to tell Excel math is coming. If you just enter 2 plus 2 without the equal sign, Excel just thinks you're trying to enter text. So always start with an equal sign. Then write your first number, 2. And now the plus sign, for those of you who are new to this, on your keyboard, you will hit Shift and equals. Hold down Shift and press equals. That's what gives you the plus sign. Then enter the other 2. So here I'm going to come to cell A3. We call this cell A3 because at the top above it, we have the letter A, and to the left of it, we have the number 3. So that's what we call that cell. I'll name it A3. You start by saying equals 2, the plus sign by hitting Shift equals, and then 2. Once you're finished, you press Enter, and Excel calculates it for you. Now, to do multiplication, again, we do the same thing. So we'll say equals to tell Excel math is coming, the 2, and then the times sign, for those of you who are new to this, we press Shift and then the number 8 to get the times sign. And then we say 2 again. So now I'm A7. Notice this is underneath the A. And in row 7, we say equals 2, hold down Shift, and hit the number 8 to get the times sign. And then press 2 again. And press Enter. Again, 2 times 2 is 4. So that shows us that it works. If you've taken math previously, for some of you, it may have been a while. Some of you might be coming out of high school, but maybe some of you have been out of school for a while. You can also put together more than one operation at once. Now, if you remember back in the day when you did math, you had to be careful what order you did the operations in. Some of you might remember this little mnemonic, PEMDAS. So, P stood for parentheses, to remind you that the first thing you do is any operation in parentheses. Then exponents, then multiplication and division. Write that down. And then addition and subtraction. We had to be careful about what order we do this in. So if you were doing this on paper, you'd have to say, well, don't have any parentheses here, don't have any exponents here, but I've got a multiplication. If we were doing this on paper, we would have to do that first and go 5 times 6 is 30, and then add 4. So for our addition, we would say 30 plus 4 gives 34. Oh, excuse me, gives us 34. Now, good news is Excel handles all this for you. So you don't have to worry about telling Excel what order to do all this in, as long as you're ordering the operations this way. So in Excel, what we would say is, first, say equals to tell Excel the math is coming. Enter your 4. Now your plus sign, for those of you who are new to this, again, is Shift and equals. Then 5, multiply 6. Again, the time sign is Shift 8. So I'm going to come again to cell A7 to show you how to enter this. We would say equals 4, press the plus sign, 5, multiply 6. So with the equals and both signs entered, we press the enter key, and again we get 34. So Excel handles the order of operations that you would expect from any math class automatically. Now, when the numbers get more complicated, it still works the same way. So this is one of the good things about using a computer to do your math, because when the numbers get nasty, it still works the same way. We still start with equals to tell Excel that math is coming. Enter our first number. Put our plus sign, again, hitting Shift equals for that. And then 53. Multiply, pressing Shift 8 for that. 61. So in cell A5, I'll enter equals, and then our first number, 4415, add 53, multiply 61. And again, Excel does this by the standard order of operations. Again, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay. All right. Now, what if you wanted to tell Excel to do the addition first? In that case, we have to put brackets, or as we say, parentheses. Now, if we were doing this on paper, we would follow the standard order of operations and start with the parentheses. And we would have to do the 4 plus 5 first, because that's in parentheses. 4 plus 5 gives 9. Multiply 6. Next, we check for exponents, but there aren't any on there, so don't worry about that. Then we think about multiplication and division. And we do have a multiplication, just 9 times 6. That would give us 54. Now, to tell Excel to do this, to force Excel to do the addition first, we have to, again, start with equals and then put an open parentheses. On the keyboard, that is Shift and 9. Then we do our 9 times 6. Remember that the multiplication, the star, is Shift 8. And then to close the parentheses, we hit Shift 0. So if we want to force the math to go a certain way, we would say 9 times 6 like that. But this time we had 4 plus 5. Let me do an edit there. So we would say 4 plus 5. Of course, to do the plus, we would say Shift and then equals. Then this gives us our 4 plus 5 in parentheses, then times 6. Of course, the times was Shift 8. So you can see, in order to get all of our symbols in the right place, we have to use our Shift keys quite a bit. So we're going to go over here to cell A8, and we'll start with an equals. Then we open the parentheses. So that's going to be Shift 9. Say 4 plus 5. Shift 0 to close. Then Shift 8 to multiply, and then 6. And when we press Enter, we do get 54. So this is how we can force Excel to do the operations in a certain order, just by being a little bit careful with our parentheses here. Now you might also see some operations that have exponents in them. So this one says 14 plus 3 raised to the second power times 2. Now, in Excel, always start with equals. We say 14, the plus sign, and then to do the exponent, we put 3, and then this little symbol, and then 2. This symbol is called a caret. And to get the caret, for those of you who are new, we will hit Shift-6 to get that. And then we just carry on and say times 2. Now, thankfully, Excel will follow the order of operations here. So it's going to carry out this exponent part before it does anything else. So it would do the 3 raised to the second power before doing the multiplication or the addition. Now we'll just say equals 14 and then the plus sign, 3 caret 2. Now again, the caret is Shift-6. And then times again was Shift-8 times 2. And Excel gives us the answer we would expect, 32. So once again, this is, the star is Shift-8. All right. Now, if we're trying to do a square root, Excel doesn't actually give us a key on the keyboard to do the square root with. In Excel, we use a special function for this called sqrt. And I'll show you how to enter it now. So again, if we're trying to do this chain of math, we would start with an equal sign, enter the number 3, place your multiplication with Shift-8, and then where you see the square root symbol, we write the letters sqrt. And then we open a parentheses with Shift-9. Then inside the parentheses, we put a 16, and then we have to close the parentheses to tell Excel that the square root is over. Means we just want to put the 16 in there. If we forget the parentheses, Excel's going to keep trying to take square roots of more stuff, and we don't want that. We just want the 16 in there. Then we say plus using Shift equals, and then 2. Now, according to the order of operations, moment. According to the priority here, the square root is treated like an exponent. So it's going to be done before multiplications or additions or subtractions. So I'm going to come to cell A6 now, and we'll say equals 3 times sqrt. Put the 16 inside the parentheses, Shift-9 to open and Shift-0 to close, and plus 2. When we press enter, we get 14. Now, if we were doing this on paper, we would have to do the square root first. So on paper, we would say 3 times square root of 16, which is 4 plus 2. Next comes multiplication and division. So our multiplication, 3 times 4, would give us 12. Add 2 does indeed give us 14. So our answers do match. So just to show you that the order of operations is still good in Excel. Now, let's talk a little bit about chains of fractions. Okay. If you're taking Math 143 in particular, you're going to be dealing with a lot of chains of fractions. So let's go through how to enter those two. Once again, always start with equals. And our first fraction is 4/5. In Excel, we would enter 4/5. So that symbol, we call that the / or just the slash. And this is the one that is next to the Shift key on your keyboard. Specifically, the one on the right Shift. Right next to the right Shift, you should be able to find that /. there's another backward slash that you don't want to use here. Then we say times, using Shift 8 again. Then our next fraction is 15 divided by 2. So we say 15/2. Place another times. And say 10/3. So here in cell A6, I'll demonstrate equals 4/5. Shift 8 to multiply. 15/2. Shift 8 to multiply. And 10/3. So you can see each of the fractions is split apart by a star to show that you're multiplying. And you press enter. And Excel will spit out the answer. Now, be cautioned that if you have numbers that don't divide evenly, what Excel will do is change it to a decimal for you. And we'll have examples of that here in a moment. Now, sometimes you'll have fractions that have more than one operation in them. So notice that this one has more than one term in the numerator and more than one term in the denominator. So when you have operations inside of a numerator or denominator, we have to be careful. Okay? So when you have a situation like this, the numerator has to get its own pair of parentheses. And the denominator has to have its own separate pair also. All right, so in red, I'm going to put parentheses around the numerator and the denominator. Now, this won't be written on paper, but we have to remember when we do Excel that they've got to both have their own thing here. So to enter something like this, always start with equals. We'll put a pair of parentheses for the numerator and then say 10/1 inside of them. Again, Shift 9 will open and Shift 0 will close. Now that we've entered the numerator, we place our slash to show that division is going to happen. Then we have a second set of parentheses. In that second set, we'll put our 4-1. Now, if we were doing this on paper, what we would say is, if we had 10-1 over 4-1, we know that 10 minus 1 is 9, 4-1 is 3, and then we divide. 9 divided by 3 would give us 3. However, Excel, if you forget those parentheses, it's going to try to divide it in the wrong order. So we specifically have to tell Excel what the numerator is and what the denominator is by specifying these sets of parentheses here. So in cell A6, we'll enter equals 10/1 in one set of parentheses, divide by 4/1 in the second set. That does give us 3, so no problem there. Now, let me show you what happens if you forget to place those parentheses around the numerator and denominator. You'll say equals 10-1 divided by 4-1. Look what happens now if you forget them. You get something completely different, 8.75. What that means is Excel has messed up the order of operations. It tried to divide in the wrong order. Now, Excel's not going to know what the numerator and denominator is, and we have to tell it. So be careful about Excel accidentally doing the wrong order. If you do it in the correct order, you should get the right answer. So that's why it's important to watch your parentheses. Entering too many is sometimes dangerous, but not entering any at all can definitely mess you up. All right. Now, let me get over to another topic which gives some people some difficulty at first. Okay. Sometimes they don't give you numbers, and instead they'll give you letters. Now, and then they'll tell you what each letter represents, and they want you to try to plug all this in. But sometimes getting this entered can be difficult. So when they start using letters instead of numbers, we got to be careful how we enter it, okay? So first off, number one, organize your letters in Excel. And we're going to organize them in column A. So since we have 3 letters, I'm going to come over here to A7, and I'm going to put the letter A. We also have the letter B and C. So below that in A8, I'll enter B. And below that, I'll enter C. Okay, now, step 2. Now for step 2, we're going to place the numbers we want them to be. But we're going to place those in column B. So in column B, I'm going to come over here to B7. Notice it is right next to A7, all right? B7 is just to the right of it. So see how column B is highlighted? Row 7 is highlighted. We call that B7. I'll place a label on that as well. Now, we're told here that A is 10, so in that position, B7 will enter 10. Now, B is 1, so we'll enter that in the next box down. Let me try that again. Try to delete that there. There we go. So here in cell B8, notice it's right next to the letter B. We're going to call that 1. Now in cell B9, we're going to enter what C is. C was 3, according to this. So we'll say 3 here. So essentially, we're trying to say that A is 10, B is 1, C is 3. But now our goal is to get A minus B divided by C. So right here, I'm going to remind ourselves, in order to enter a complicated fraction, so here in step 3, I'm going to say we need to figure out where our parentheses go in order to make this work. So remember that when you're doing a nasty fraction like this, we're going to put parentheses around the numerator and parentheses around the denominator so Excel can keep them straight. Now we're going to try to actually enter our answer. Okay. Now to enter this answer, we're going to start again by saying equals. Excel math is coming. But now, rather than typing the letter A or typing the letter 10, what we can do is click on this position in Excel. So in Excel, this box was B7. So we can say parentheses B7. What Excel's going to do, it's going to look in B7 and say, oh, I see the number 10 there. Well, okay, I'll just use 10. Then we can say subtract letter B, but letter B points right here. Now remember that this cell with the 1 in it was cell B8, as you can see from the letter B and the number 8. So we can just say B7 minus B8. And then remember that B7 was letter A and B8 was B. Then we close our parentheses. That takes care of the numerator. Then we put a slash to tell Excel that division is coming. And we're going to have a space for letter C. Now letter C was located right here. Notice that we're not clicking on the letter, we're clicking on the number next to it. Now that's number 3, but rather than say 3, what we can do is enter this cell reference. This is under letter B, row 9, so we would call this B9. So in this position where we want C, we would put B9. So for our answer, we would say equals a parentheses. Click on B7. Notice that it is now colored blue. That's our first box. That's how we start. So notice that the 10 is now colored blue. That's telling you that that 10 is going to be placed in that first position. Then subtract B8. That's colored red. So we're telling Excel, put the number 1 in the next position. Close the parentheses, divide. And now, in the last position where C goes, we would click B9, which is in purple. That's telling Excel the 3 goes into that last position. And I'll take a picture of this as well. Here we are. Just so you can see it again after I press enter. When I press enter, Excel will do the math for me and give me a 3. Now I'm going to put the picture in there too, just to show you how they both look. So what Excel was effectively doing was taking parentheses 10 minus 1 and then dividing all of that by 3. The 10 was being placed in the first position, the 1 was placed in the second position, and the 3 was placed in the last position. So essentially, you can tell Excel to look in a cell, it'll stick that number in for you. Now, the reason why we do this is because sometimes we want to repeat calculations many, many times. So what if we changed all of our numbers around? Ordinarily, we would have to retype the whole thing. But with Excel, what we can do is just change the numbers that we have. So what if I wanted A to change to 20, B to change to 6, and C to change to 2? So in where the 10 is now, with the label A, I'm just going to backspace this and say 20. Now look what happens when I press enter. Notice that changes our answer. So Excel automatically recalculates the numbers based on changes you make. Now, B was 6, so next to B, we'll enter 6, and Excel makes the adjustment again. You can change the numbers to anything you want, and Excel will automatically recalculate. So I can make millions of changes to this, and Excel will just automatically do the math for me. So this is a lot faster than having to retype everything. Once you've set your formula up, you can change any numbers that come before, and Excel will give you the answer automatically. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about how to do fractions and percents in Excel. Now, something you may have had to do with your earlier math classes was change your fraction to a decimal. Now, Excel does this pretty much automatically. we would start by saying equals, then place 3/8. Put that right here. I'm entering in A6 the placeholder word decimal, so I remember where I put my decimal. And I'll say equals 3/8. That gives me 0.375. Now, also asked to round the answer to 2 decimal places. So let's go through how that works. You can have Excel do this for you as well. So to round, we're going to, number 1, click on our decimal. So we'll click right there in cell B6 where my 0.375 is. Number 2, we're going to go to the home menu, and from the home menu, we're going to look in the number section. So the home menu is in the upper left corner. Click that. And then the number section looks like this. Paste it in there. Now the button we are after are these 2 buttons here in the lower right corner. We've got a left button and a right button that have a bunch of zeros in them. Now, the one on the left will give you more decimal places. That is called the increase decimal button. And the red one gives you fewer decimal places. That is the decrease decimal button. So right now we have 3 decimal places in this number. If we only want 2, in the home menu, we hit this button on the right, and you can see as I hover over it, it says decrease decimal. Press it once, and then it'll give us fewer decimal places. Now, if you want even less than that, you can press it again, and that decreases it even more. If you decided you wanted to increase it, you can press the other button that I boxed in orange, increase decimal. Notice if I press it a whole bunch of times, it gives me a ton of decimal places. Now, we don't need that many. This time we just want 2, so I'm going to hit decrease a few times and take it back down. Now, if you want to do a percent, I'm going to enter a placeholder for the percent in cell A8. What we can do is go one more step. Okay. Now, to go to percent, we actually start with the decimal. So we're going to have to get the decimal first. And then after that, we're going to go to home and the number section again. And then we're going to have to click on our answer. And then click on this symbol, which I'm going to box in green, which is the percentage sign. So the way we got our decimal last time, we said equals 3 divide 8. We pressed enter. We got our decimal, 0.375. Now we go back to the home section, go into the number section here at the top, and this little percent symbol is what we want. Now that we've clicked on our answer, we click on the percent sign, and this gives us 38%. Now after that, if we want to change the number of decimal places, we can do that too. So let's go back to home, and we can look at these little increase decimal and decrease decimal buttons. Now we'll click increase decimal because, again, we wanted 2 decimal places. So click this twice, and then this will give us 37.50, 2 decimal places for our percentage. All right. So we'll do a quick little example problem. with how to handle percentages with Excel. Now, this problem, we are asked if a pair of jeans that's usually $50 is on sale and marked 60% off, find the discount amount and then paint the answer cell red. So, if we're trying to find how much a discount is, what we would do is take our original price and then multiply by our percent off. Now, since there are two things we need to multiply together, what I'm going to do this time is make a separate box for each of them. So make a box that says original price, and then we'll come down here and put a little label for percent off. When you're doing math in Excel, it helps to organize the things that are going into your calculation. So number one, let's make labels for the things that are going into our calculation. And this is just to remind ourselves what it all means. Number two, next to original price, we're going to enter $50. Now you might notice if I try to come next to original price, you can see that the box in column B kind of overlaps the word, okay? That can kind of make your table messy. So to neaten that up, what we're going to do is come up to the top and move our mouse right here on this line between the letter A and the letter B. And we're going to click that and slide this over a little bit to make column A wider so that the numbers that we enter don't interfere with the words we're trying to write, so we can read the whole thing. Now, in the original price, it's $50, so we'll put 50. But we can actually format this to make it look like money, okay? So to make this look like money, again, we go back to home and go back to the number menu. Take another picture and paste that. Now, if we want to make something appear like money, we're going to use the dollar sign. Okay? So again, we click on our number like we did last time. Go back to home and go back to number and click our dollar sign, and now it says $50. So this is called accounting formatting. Now, for our percent, we know that was 60%. So remember that if we want this to be a percentage, we can say in this box 60, but we need to enter the percent sign along with it so Excel knows that it's a percentage and not another number. Now to enter the percent, we're going to say that for percent, we enter 60 with the percent sign, and that percent sign, for those of you who are new, is Shift 5 on your keyboard. Now be careful here, because a common mistake that I see is that people will say 60, but then, here, let me go ahead and clear this and show you what some people do on accident. Some people say 60 and then try to click percent, but that gives them 6,000. When it comes to percentages, it's better to say 60 and then just type the sign yourself to avoid that particular error. Now that we have the original price and the percent off, let me scroll down. Remember that all we needed to do was multiply them. So our discount that we're trying to do was the original price times the percent off. Now, the original price, notice that when I click on it, it highlights cell B7. Let's write that down. And then we would have to multiply it times the percentage off. That's located in the cell below it. Now, can you see that the cell below it is B8? So we'll say equals to tell Excel math is coming. Click B7 to put the price in. Now the price is highlighted in blue. Multiply. Now click B8. And we press enter, and that gives us the discount amount. Now to paint the cell red, so if we wanted to color in that cell, we're going to go to Home. And in our Home menu, we've got a little paint bucket underneath the font section. Get a little picture of that too. Now you can choose a color for Excel by clicking on it and then going to this little paint bucket right here. So if I click on the cell where I've got my discount, I go Home, and this little arrow next to the paint bucket is what I'm after. Click on the little arrow and you can color it however you like. I'm going to color it kind of a dark red there. So this is a good way to call out any sort of amount that you're planning on using later. Now next, find the sale price and paint the answer cell gold. Now, if I want to find the sale price, that's just going to be the original price and subtract the discount that the store's taken off for me. Now, the good news is I've got all these amounts in here. The original price is located right here in cell B7. Let's make a note of that. And then the discount itself that we're taking out is located in cell B12. Make a note of that too. So now, instead of actually entering in the numbers, I can say equals B7 subtract B12, and Excel will handle everything for me. So I'll come down here to A15 and put the label sale price so I remember what this means. And I can say equals B7 subtract B12. And Excel correctly finds that my sale price is $20. Now, if I want to paint it gold again, I click on it, go Home, go back to the paint bucket, and pick a gold color. So again, this is how we tell Excel to do math for us. Now, the good news is now that I've done this, what if I wanted to buy a different pair of jeans that was $75? All I'd have to do is come up here to where my original price is and type 75, and look what happens to the rest of the problem. It recalculates the discount, which is now $45, and recalculates the sale price, which is now $30. What if I wanted to change the percent off? What if it's only 40% off? I could say 40% and press enter, and once again, Excel will recalculate the discount and recalculate the sale price. So this is extra handy if you ever need to change something about a problem. All you'd have to do is set it up with Excel and change the numbers as you like. All right, so we're actually over time now at 11:46. Were there any questions that I missed from anybody? Go ahead and check my messages here. So we do have some people typing. I'll give you a moment on that. I did have more, but it looks like I've gone on too long. And yes, this will be available to watch later if you want to review anything we've done. I am recording it on Teams. So after, I think it takes around 15 to 20 minutes to process after the meeting stops, okay? So once everybody's out of the room, it is going to start processing. And you can download it. Okay, good, James. Thank you. All right. Anybody have any other questions before I go? Seems like hopefully this was a good introduction for everybody who is completely new to this, just to show you what can be done and how to organize some of this stuff. I think above all else, make sure that you label everything you do so you don't lose your numbers. A common error I see with people who are new is they tend to scatter their numbers here and there across the table, and they forget what went where, or where stuff went in the math they were trying to do. So I always say enter labels in column A, values in column B, and do whatever math you need with them after that. All right. Anything else? Absolutely, Wendy. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.